have to have your green card first before you could start working. And, and the green card, you have to be here so long before you actually would be entitled to having the green card. But once you get the green card, then, you're permanent here. You wouldn't have to leave. Well, you're with the green card, there's no reason you would have to be deported unless like we got a divorce or whatever, and then you would most likely be deported back to the Philippines. But as long as we're married, the green card, says that you can stay here the rest of your life. And then after 2 years after you have your green card, then you can, you know, apply to become a nationalized U.S. citizen. So that would be 2 years after you get your green card, because they want to make sure that that everything works out and that you stay here and stuff. They don't want to give you a green card and then 6 months later say, well, okay, we're going to swear in as as a permanent U.S. nation, a U.S. citizen, where you take the oath, you raise your hand and say, I swear to the best of my ability to defend and protect the United States of America, and everything. And, people do it, people do, they take that oath, all the time. But, but that can't happen until 2 years after you have received your green card. Then after that, then you're a U.S. citizen. So then the green card wouldn't even matter, because you're a U.S. citizen then. You took the oath and stuff, and everything. So then the green card, that wouldn't even matter, because you're a citizen then. So, but but it's just a process. It'll take time, but the first thing is to get everything taken care of so that you can come here. That's the first part, is to get that all taken care of so we can get you here. And like I said, once I get back and have the videos and photos and everything, and then all of our communications on the phone, our video calls daily and our text messages, and and everything, when I go to Cleveland, Ohio, to the it's called the actually, I don't know if it's on this phone or if it's on um, I don't think it's on this phone. No, it's on this, on the phone I'm talking to you on. I'm going to minimize this so I can look it up. I have it on under Google Chrome. Um, I think it's where it's at. Yeah. Um, yeah. Field offices. It's called the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and it's a field office, and it's in Cleveland, Ohio. So that's where once I'm back, I'll have to go to Cleveland, make an appointment, go to Cleveland, to present everything, you know, you know, photos and videos and our, chats and talks and everything, and give them all the information and stuff, and then they will process everything, and then eventually, however long it takes them to get the stuff sent to Manila, and then then it'd be just, and when that happens, I'll make sure that you have the money to, whether it's, to fly, take a boat, whatever it is, to go from, where you live to Manila, and, I'll make sure you have the money for whatever, however way you go, whether it's, I know you can't go by bus, because there's water, between this stuff, you know, there's no exact right, road that you can like drive on all the way up from Manila. But they do. I You can take a boat, and I think the boat takes, I don't know, like 5 or 6 hours to go from where you live to Manila. You know, yeah, yeah, because I know you don't really want to fly by yourself. I totally understand that, but yeah, like a boat or ferry or something like that. Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't want you to fly if you're not comfortable. It's just like when the time comes for you to come here, I will fly there so that we can fly back together. And and I will make sure that when I come there to get you, that I will buy a one-way ticket there. That I will explain to you know everybody at the airline or whatever that I'm going there and that we're flying back together, and that's why I'm buying a one-way ticket to the Philippines, so that when we buy tickets to come back, that it's so that we're together, rather than me way up there towards the front somewhere or whatever, and then you're like 15, 20 rows behind me somewhere, you know. I'd rather that I buy a one-way ticket there, and then we buy a one-way ticket for both of us back here. That way we can be together on the plane, because I have flown before, but you never have, and I understand that and I'll explain to them that I don't want you to have to fly by yourself, never having flown before, and it would be very nerve wracking for you because you've never done it. I've done it because like when I was in the service and stuff, I flew quite a bit when I was in the service. Yeah. No, he declined the shower. I mean, all he did was he used like wet naps or wet wipes or whatever, and just wiped himself off every day. That's that's all he did. He was offered a shower, but he took the money instead of the shower, because I think they offered him, I think it was either 25 or $50,000 or a shower where he could shower every single day if he wanted to. And he said, "Nope." He says, "I'll take the 50,000." So he gave up the shower, and he just used like the wet wipes or whatever, to wipe himself off and stuff. And then of course when he got that DoorDash, then he could there was no limit on what he could spend on DoorDash. It was unlimited. So he was ordering food. He ordered all kinds of stuff to put in the plane. Like he ordered a miniature tree plant and pictures, and but then of course they had to move all that back off because he was running out of room. He couldn't move. So you know, but he says no. I'll take the $50,000 rather than a shower. So because it isn't like it isn't like he was going to be around everybody day after day after day where they'd have to smell him. So yeah. Oh yeah. If I was offered $50,000, over a shower, and and I had like wet naps, wet wipes, or whatever to just wipe myself down and stuff. Yeah, and then eventually he got that DoorDash, so he could order anything on DoorDash. He could order food, cleaning supplies. He ordered like a little shop vac thing, a vacuum thing, so he could vacuum and stuff. Anything that he could get delivered from DoorDash, he was ordering. It wasn't just food. So, yep, yeah, I would give up, because the fact that wherever I was, whether it would be on a plane or in a house that I could not leave or whatever, you know, I give up the shower, for $50,000. That would help us out big time because obviously it wouldn't be to fly on a plane because I don't I can't fly, I don't have a pilot's license, so you know, but oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, pilots, even before he was offered that, and everything, pilots make good money. They're like doctors and lawyers and stuff. They make good money. I mean, sometimes they have to put in long hours, especially if you're flying like overseas somewhere where it's 15 to 20 hour flight from point A to point B. That's a long flight. Yeah, he was a professional pilot. Yeah, that's why he could. That's why. That's why when he went different places and stuff, flew. He was the one flying the plane because he's a certified pilot. So, and of course, whenever he flew somewhere, he had somebody with him in the cockpit because you have to have a pilot and a co-pilot. So somebody had to be there with him in case he got sick or had to go, take care of, to relieve himself or whatever. Then his co-pilot, could take over flying the plane. Oh yeah, he was already rich from, you know, being a pilot and stuff already. Yeah, but now he owns a $2.5 million plane. That was tax free. He didn't have to buy it; it was given to him. So he had the certified deed that the deed was in his name to the plane, so it was officially his. So all he had ever have to do is pay for fuel, to fuel it up and stuff. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just like like on his website, he gave away what was it, five $5 million to one person, $5 million. Like I told you, I'd be happy if I had $50,000. I'd be happy. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, he helps. He's done a lot for poor people. Like it said on his website that he's you know had water wells drilled in Africa where people they didn't have running water and stuff, and you know, and he gave away two private islands. Well, he gave away two different private islands. Now, whether those people are just random people or you know who it was, I don't know. But oh yeah, oh yeah, around the world there's more poor people than there are rich people in the world. A lot more. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it, you know, and a lot of the money that that he gives away, or donates for this charity or that charity or whatever and stuff. It's a tax write off. So it's not like he's really losing the money, even though he's rich. It's a tax write off, so he can file. If he gives somebody, you know, like that guy, gave him a $2.5 million claim. It's a tax write-off, so he can claim it on his taxes at the end of the year. The same thing if when he gives away money or whatever, it's a tax write-off. He can claim it on his taxes when he files his taxes, each year and stuff. So it's not like he's losing the money. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you got to remember, he started out like we're starting out on YouTube. He started out, he posted something, and it